Hi everyone, it's Rachika again. This is part 2. We're talking about juvenile justice in Quebec. We're talking about the kids that have died under youth protection. We're talking about Lindsay versus Quebec, which is a class action taking place right now in Quebec. And in this video, I'm going to share my personal story behind the scenes on the Lindsay versus Quebec case. And I'm going to introduce to you some of the key players. So when we're talking about Lindsay versus Quebec, the first character you need to get to know is Gillian Cosgrove.
The Gillian Cosgrove that wrote about the punitive conditions in Quebec juvenile detention centers.
Once again, there's a public uproar over the way children in Quebec are treated in detention centers.
Gillian Cosgrove is on the line now from Montreal.
The children are placed in solitary cells in the basement. They're dragged down by guards.
The method of containment, which was dropped by even the psychiatric hospitals something like 150 years ago.
Okay, I have to interrupt here. That statement is absolutely ridiculous. There is a class action lawsuit that is dealing with the human torture that Dr. Ewan Cameron was experimenting on at the Allen Memorial in Montreal. That is actually running in tandem with the Lindsay versus Quebec, but that's a whole other series of videos. But I do want to point out there is definitely a connection between the MK Ultra programs running at the Allen Memorial and juvenile justice in Quebec. Okay, now back to Gillian.
Leave a kid on a concrete slab? I mean, I can't believe it.
These are my files from 1973, 4, 5. Oh, there's a picture of me. Well, I was certainly inexperienced as hell. Green reporter. I was fresh to the social affairs beat. Maybe a month or two. I'd covered it.
Okay, sorry, I had to interrupt again. So, as far as I can tell, and I've looked, between the mid-1970s and the 2019 filing of the Lindsay versus Quebec case, I don't think Gillian ever did any kind of follow-up and never really checked on the girls that she had seen until many years later. But anyways, let's keep going.
I went to visit a social worker on the English side in Montreal. And I said, what are the biggest problems in Quebec? And he said, well, the fact that children's prisons still exist.
Okay, this is an interesting story that she would bring this up. So that social worker that she's talking about is Leith Hamilton. He's a well-known social worker in Montreal. And he's also a character that I want you to meet later. But
I went undercover. Now I went in as an educatrice. It was more in a custodial role rather than a rehabilitative role in any way. Notre Dame Laval was like a clearinghouse. It was the point from where I could see the inner workings of the system. It would take in all sorts of girls, runaways, truants, juvenile delinquents, special needs kids, and psychiatric patients. One of the really awful things about it is they put them all into the same melting pot.
okay, so if there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, is that in 1970s, when Gillian went in there, Quebec was housing youth protection cases with youth offenders and mental health issues all in the same placements. How that isn't a class action in itself, I'll never know. Because in 1983, 84, 85, 86, while I was there, that was still the practice. And from the reporting that came out this month, from the Montreal Gazette and CTV News, Quebec still houses youth protection and youth offenders together. So it begs the question, is Quebec protecting children who commit crime, or are they punishing vulnerable children who need protection? Anyways, come back for part 3, and I'll be introducing you to Lindsay.